Well, good morning, my friends. Today we are starting our vlog in the town of Monrovia, California, which is meant to be Buckley, Washington, in the movie Black Sheep, starring Chris Farley and David Spade. Daze with Jordan the Lion, and apparently Mark Twain. Yeah, Mark Twain. It begins right now. So a little bit of the backstory on this movie is that Chris Farley had been fired right before this from Saturday Night Live. He did not want to be. This was not something that Lorne Michaels even wanted to do, but it came from the higher ups at NBC. At the time, Saturday Night Live had the biggest cast they had had. It was also the highest budget they had, and they were getting really bad ratings. And since Chris Farley and people like Adam Sandler were kind of the main build people on that show, they were the ones that got fired. Now, Chris always loved being part of an ensemble. Like, he liked that community of being on Saturday Night Live, because to him it was like, well, kind of like a fraternity. He didn't want to be a breakout star. He didn't want to even be a star. So when they had him do Tommy Boy, he was kind of reluctant, because he was afraid if it was successful they would try and push him off the show. And Tommy Boy was successful. He was basically not let come back at the end of the 94-95 season. And so Lorne Michaels, still loving Chris almost as a son, produced Black Sheep, which was the follow-up to Tommy Boy. So we are today going to show you some of the great locations, because to me, David Spade and Chris Farley were such a great comedy team. And even though this movie probably isn't as good as Tommy Boy, it's still a really funny movie, and I've always wanted to vlog this. So today we're doing a Patreon sunglass vlog for JD Parks Gaming channel. JD Parks, I hope you enjoyed Black Sheep, and I hope you enjoy this sunglass vlog today. Let's do it. So the opening of our movie starts right here, this intersection. This is where Al Donnelly's having his gubernatorial campaign rally. So we see the crowd of people are all here, and the stage is actually set up right at this intersection. And that's when we see Al Donnelly appear in his limousine, hop out of the limo, and then go up onto the stage, played by Tim Matheson. And his brother is Mike Donnelly. Mike Donnelly is Chris Farley, and as this is happening, Mike is traveling through town with a campaign van that he has put Al's face on the side of, and he's trying to drum up support, but he starts getting chased by some unruly dogs, and so he ends up losing control of the car and careening through the streets of this town where this rally is taking place. They see him coming down this street. And right here in front of our next location for the movie is something paying homage to movie making in this town. He's framing up his shot. Very nice. So our next location is right here at this intersection. So as Mike's losing control, he comes up to here and then screeches because he sees a woman crossing in the crosswalk, and he goes, "Holy!" and drives right over this. None of this was here at the time of the filming, this tree and the statue and everything, but he ends up driving the campaign truck right underneath that movie theater. And it was a different theater sign even then. So we see Mike Donnelly and the truck right underneath the old sign that used to be there. It's a pretty freaking cool theater though, isn't it? Now our next two locations are just a block away over on Lemon Avenue. So a lot's changed in this town since 1996 when this movie came out, but this is a great scene. This is where David Spade is playing Steve, and he's driving down the street and he's saying, "People should label your roads like every other place." And Gary Busey, and talk about perfectly cast, Gary Busey comes running out from this side and gets hit by David Spade's car. And talk about perfectly cast, man. He plays like a kind of an ex-military guy who's a little off kilt or whatever, and Gary Busey's perfect for that. So while they're right here having their altercation, Gary Busey comes up to the window and says, "I'm not too far from pulling you out of that car and beating you to dust." David Spade says, "You ought to work up to that. It doesn't really leave you anywhere to go." And they start fighting, and David Spade says, "Hold on, I got a little souvenir for you," and reaches down and pulls up a middle finger. And he takes off and goes right down this road and turns right around the corner. But they do a little movie magic right here that I'll show you, because even though they show you what I'm going to show you next, which is this corner, him rounding the corner and everything, when they cut back, he actually cuts back to coming out of here. So we'll go down here. This is where the chase would have ensued. Basically, Gary Busey would have chased him down this sidewalk to this corner, and David Spade's car makes a right. So David Spade makes the turn right here, and this whole road is congested, so he just parks his rental car right here in the middle of the street and runs into one of these stores over here. And then we see Gary Busey come running out here looking for him, and he gets a bright idea. You don't see it at the time, but what his idea is, he hops in the rental car that was just left here with the keys in it and everything, and he just takes the rental car. So even though we see David Spade dodge into one of these stores over here, I showed you that he comes out in reality in the filming back here. So you see David Spade actually pop out of this barbershop, because it was a barbershop even then. And this is the pocket pool scene. This is where he's out here and the lady bumps into him right here. And she goes, "Out of my way, sonny." And he goes, "Hold on, lady, I got something for you," and starts putting his hands in his pockets, fishing around like that, because he's gonna do the middle finger move to her. And then as he's getting ready to do it, he rethinks it, and he's like, you know. And she goes, "What are you doing there with your hands in your pockets there, son? You playing pocket pool? Huh? Keep dreaming, you little fart." And she walks off. And of course, Steve realizes that his car is gone. Now they do a heck of a lot of cutting around in this movie. So like I showed you, where he runs in is around the corner from where he actually comes out of. And when he comes out, even though he's standing right where I just showed you, when the camera is showing it from his perspective, it's showing that original corner that I was showing you. And I'll tell you how you can tell. It's because before there was any of this, when you look in the movie, there's a little like wooden seat kind of deal that they've created that people are sitting in and everything. But when he walks out, you see that, but you also see this building across the street, because it hasn't changed. Same awnings and everything, same green front facade. So when he's looking around for his car, you still see this. Now so far everything that I've shown you is literally within like 2 blocks right here on Myrtle, between Lemon Avenue and Lime Avenue. But now we're gonna head up the street for our next 2 filming locations. Those were also on Myrtle, about a few blocks away. So this house right here is Scott Colery's grandma's house, Mrs. Onaker. So Chris Farley's Bonneville is parked right up here with the front tire lined up with the walkway. And we see him bringing Scott home. And the house was white at the time, now it's yellow. But Chris Farley's walking back, and Mrs. Onaker on the front porch or front step says, "I bet you made some nice friends today," to Scott. And Chris Farley turns around and says, "Scott, God blessed you with the one hell of a throwing arm. I'll be damned if I'm gonna let that go to waste. I want you out on that field every day. I'm gonna work with you." And he makes that promise because Scott his parents just got divorced, so now he's living with his grandma. We see Chris Farley pretty much right about here where he's talking about all that. And his car, like I said, was right there. And definitely when they filmed the scene here with Chris Farley dropping him off, that fence was not there at the time. Now what's pretty cool is that another scene way later on in the movie is at a historic house right directly across the street. I mean, right here at that historic house. So let's go over and talk about that. So if we walk right across the street, this is a historic home. This has been here for a long time, and I'm not going to go into the history of it because I'm going to vlog it another time for another filming location. But since it was in this movie, I have to mention, actually this house wasn't in Black Sheep. The garage was. So the garage was an add-on many years later, but I'm glad they did it because this is where Mike Donnelly comes for the voting booth scene. They have that pretty sketchy looking voting booth set up right in front of the two doors down there, and he's, you know, a rather large guy, so he goes in to vote and he gets stuck in the voting booth. So it's a voting booth made for 3 people. He would have picked up his ballot and everything from the women that are set right here, and David Spade's even out here waiting for him to get done voting, but you see Chris Farley get stuck, and that whole thing gets stuck onto him, and he ends up tipping it all over and then busting out. He's in the center one. He ends up busting out of the middle and then realizes that the 2 other women are stuck, so he like punches through and breaks the other 2 sides so that he can get the women out. It's a total catastrophe, but I think that is just one of the funniest scenes. Kind of funny to know that it's the way they film these kind of things. They cheated like that and did locations one across the street from another. But we'll be back here again. Like I said, I want to vlog this house for another filming location, but since that voting scene was right there, I had to include it. So our next location is one of my favorites. We are over at Chris Farley's character's house, Mike Donnelly's house in the movie. This is where Steve and Mike meet. Now here we have Mike's house, and we see Steve, David Spade, walking up this sidewalk, and this whole front yard is just covered in vote for Donnelly for governor and American flags and everything. But you see that Chris Farley is working on his car. He's got it like kind of angled in the yard, and he's changing his oil. So David Spade comes up and is talking to him, and you see most of the shots are turned around like this. You can see this tree in the shot, and you can see this house over here back during the filming had green AstroTurf on the front steps that you keep seeing in the background. But this is where they introduce one another, and David Spade shakes Chris Farley's hand and he gets the oil all over his hand. Then they talk about going out to get voters for the campaign, and Chris Farley goes to close the hood of his convertible right here, and he slams his thumbs under the hood. So he's asking Steve, he's like, please pop the hood. Oh, well, where's the ejection? Just pop the hood. So he pops it open, and then you see Chris Farley standing there holding his hands going, ah. So Chris Farley would have been standing right over here. And like I said, most of the scene is turned around, so you just see kind of this tree. You see this house over here, the corner. Actually, the fire hydrant is still there. And then you see the AstroTurf steps over here. Okay, so we are at the supermarket where Steve and Mike decide they're going to work together on Al's campaign. This is the first place they come to drum up votes. So right here where the pavement and everything changes, you see Chris Farley comes cartwheeling across here and does like a little Three Stooges dance, and then says, vote for Donnelly, ma'am. That's when David Spade says, look, I think maybe we need to lower the energy on this. He goes, are you crazy, man? These are potential voters. We got to go out and get them. Watch and learn. And he follows this older couple over to their car that would have been parked over here. Now you can tell this has changed. This in the movie was parking over here still, and the ice machine and everything would have been over here. And you can see all this in the background while Mike is in a parking space right here trying to help them load their groceries. He's helping the elderly couple load their groceries, and the woman doesn't want him to. She says, get in the car, Harold. He gets in, and once they get in the car, Chris Farley is back here in the back, and he goes to close the trunk, and when he closes the trunk, his necktie gets stuck in it, and they end up taking him on a ride all the way around the parking lot. There was at one time, well, at least in the movie, when they get up to this section and they're rounding it, that's where the speed bump was. It's a very funny scene, because he's running along and they see him behind him. They think that he's chasing him. They don't know that he's stuck. And she says, he must be hopped up on drugs. So he's running over the speed bump back here, and now it's one way, but in the movie, their car continues to travel down this path, and that's when he loses his footing and starts getting dragged behind the car, and his belt buckle is sparking and everything. So they end up driving here, flooring it, and then at the exit right up here where we came in, he ends up breaking loose. His necktie breaks loose from the back of the car, and he ends up rolling and ending up right where David Spade is standing, right there. That is such a great scene. All right, now we're going way across LA, another like 20-30 minutes for our next location. A good portion of this movie was filmed in Los Angeles, but about 40 miles apart. All right, our next location is here in North Pasadena, the Hill Market scene. So here's the market. It has definitely changed over time. Right here where this car is parked is where Mike parks his car and Steve gets out. In the movie, there were like 3 or 4 doors that went across here that he goes in, and when he goes in, he looks over at Mike and says, all right, don't get out of the car. You promise? I promise. The moment Steve walks in, a kid walks out and starts heading this way, and we see Mike look at him kind of suspiciously, and Mike gets out and follows him over here. And right over here is where that half of the flatbed truck would have been that the kids are sitting there partying in, and Mike goes in there to, I guess, teach them an example. He's acting like he's partying with them, but he's basically using up their stuff. So we see the photographer hiding behind this tree taking photos of Mike supposedly partying with the kids. In the back of this, we see Mike drinking their beer and them trying to hand him a joint, and he's going, popping, snorting, toking, dropping, do a little dance. And those guys are taking the photos of him. You can even see like this knot in the tree and this fork in the tree and everything when he's right here. They're taking these photos because they're trying to sell them to the woman who's governor now. So they have all these photos to incriminate him, and this leads him to losing his job, which is our next location, should we be able to find it. If you look at the scene in the movie and you match up this rock work and everything that's right here, plus the fence in the background, you can tell exactly that the half of the truck that they're sitting in, the bed of that truck, that old rusted truck, is right here. It is a whole lot nicer now though. You would never even know that that scene took place here. Now I have kind of a rough idea of where our next location is, but I don't know exactly, so we're gonna have to go combing around a college campus and look for it. This next location is about 35 minutes away. So one location that I couldn't get for this was the cabin scene, because that is on a movie ranch lot, and I figured if I could ever get to that cabin, I could do a whole vlog just on all the things that happened there, so that won't be included here. I think we might partially be foiled today. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you what I'm trying to show you, but let me try. Okay, I drove all the way around the campus and none of the entrances are open. What I was going to show you is this is where the rec center was that Mike works at. First scene we see here of the rec center is when he's making calls early on in the movie to drum up support for Al, and he's talking about just a boy with a dream, and he says, speaking of dreams, I had one doozy last night. involved a circus clown, hooker, a nun, a yo-yo. He goes on a whole string of things. He goes, my grandma riding by on a bicycle giving me the finger and a duck. And then all of a sudden you hear him go, why are you crying? Oh, I'm sorry, honey, is your dad there? And then right across from where that rec center was, see, the rec center was not real. It was created for the movie because they eventually burn it down. But I was hoping to match up where it was, because right across from where they built it was that little practice field where he's playing football with the kids. So unfortunately we can't get in there today, but those two scenes were there. And then once Mike gets fired, like I said at our last location, when Mike gets fired, he's in here clearing out his stuff, and he comes out and two men are setting the place on fire, and he tries to put out the fire, and those guys who have been following around taking photos of him for the governor, they see him doing it. They see him putting out the fire, and they take photos so that it basically, the set of photos that they take could be either used to make Mike look like he was trying to stop the fire, or they could make it look like he started the fire. So it's sad that we can't get in there, but the whole campus is closed down right now. Bummer. And so of course the reason I kind of figured that the rec center building wasn't real was because they set it on fire in the movie. But those two scenes would have been here, as well as the football stadium after the whole rally. When Mike runs the truck into the movie theater, you see them out walking on a football field. That was at the Pierce College football field here as well. Well, I guess not all hope is lost. You can see the field is right here where the kids were playing the football game with Mike, and they had built his rec center over in that direction, because you can see that big building that's still there kind of in the background of it. So it would have been over there. Surprisingly, you can see this from the street. When I looked back at the footage, I realized that you could see cars driving past, so they would have had that little scene out here, and then Mike and Scott would have come walking towards us at the end of it. All right, our next location's way out in Westlake, about a half an hour or more away. There's something kind of funny about this location I'll tell you about when we get there. Usually those hills are luscious green hills. So right out here, we're on the road where Mike and Steve parked the police cruiser that they have been getting high off the nitrous oxide once the hose broke. They're parked out here, and what's funny is that when I found this location, there's something else I wanted to vlog, and I had pinned it about a year ago. It took me like an hour on Google Earth to look it up and find it, going up and down roads, and I had pinned it on my map, and then when I found this, it's actually right beside here, so we'll be back here in the future. Now what else is funny is the reason I hadn't done that vlog is because I was looking for a mountain range and I couldn't find it from looking on the maps online, and I found it while I was out here. So since the filming of this movie, the house has been torn down and replaced with something way better, I think. It's a really amazing farm now, but this is where Mike and Steve sneak in. Well, Mike sneaks in on the news van and then ends up getting his belt stuck on the antenna or the satellite, and then gets hoisted up there, and she's having her press conference and everything there, and they come spoil it, and then they end up exposing her. But yeah, the mansion used to be right here. Beautiful place, huh? So like I said, we'll be back out here in the future for another vlog now that I've matched up everything I need. I might do it extremely soon. Sooner than later. What an amazing place, huh? When I first came out here, there was a white horse walking the grounds freely. Just beautiful. There's some statues up there of horses. Now it's another 30-minute drive to our next and last location. So the ending scene is here at the Camarillo Airport. Al has won the election, and this is where Scott and Mrs. Onaker are waiting, and everybody boards the plane, including Steve with his new job. It actually takes place right over there. That's where they board the plane. Al Donnelly signs Scott's football, and then Mike tells him to go long, and when Scott runs to go catch it, Chris Farley accidentally bounces it off of Grandma's head. And then Chris Farley helps them close the airplane door, and he gets his jacket stuck in it, and the airplane takes off with him hanging off the door right here. Here you can see that there's a cafe right here on the grounds. It's called the Waypoint Cafe. You can see that in the background of the shot of that last scene. It looks different, but you can see the tables and everything out here, so that scene would have been directly beyond where they're all sitting and eating. See the airplanes over there? And you can definitely see that in the background of the shot while Al and Mike are talking here at the airport. Sorry we couldn't include you in the vlog today. Well, we are now, but we were just doing too many locations for me to be able to take you today, Ja. Say hi to everybody though, right? So obviously I think Black Sheep is a great movie. I love it. I think it's so funny because of Chris Farley. I think Chris Farley just had this amazing charisma and charm and this childlike nature that just made it fun to watch. And sadly, it didn't do as well as Tommy Boy. And when they did the very first screening of this, Chris back when he was in college, he had had some drinking and substance abuse issues, and he had been clean for 3 years. And it was right at this time when they were getting ready to screen this that he fell off the wagon and started drinking. His brother said he could remember being picked up in the limo and Chris taking all the little small travel size bottles out of the limo, and his brother said, "Why are you doing that, Chris? You don't drink." He goes, "Oh, I'm gonna give them to the limo driver. They love that kind of stuff." But he said, "I never remember him giving them to the limo driver." And then he said, "You know, we were brothers. We did everything together, including going to the bathroom." And he said there was a time in that night where Chris said he had to go to the bathroom, and I said I had to go too, and I started following him, and he got all mad that I went in there with him. And he had never gotten mad. And he said the same thing happened later on in the night where he said he had to go to the bathroom, and I tried to go and he got mad, and he said I found out that he was drinking those bottles, and they ended up having to put him in rehab after the screening of Black Sheep, unfortunately. All right, my friends, we're gonna call it a night. I hope you enjoyed this vlog. Thank you, Oh That Steve, for becoming my newest Patreon. And if you haven't watched Black Sheep in a while, go back and watch it. I love it. I think it's a great movie. You will too if you like Chris Farley and David Spade. And Gary Busey is just stellar. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you all next time. Goodbye.